Okay, so now that we understand a little bit more about the quick table calculations that are available to us and how scope and direction works, let's create another visualization where we'll incorporate both of these things that we've learned about. And in essence, this visualization is parallels the scope and direction that was on the previous video, but now with some hopefully useful information. So I'm going to start it the exact same way. I'm going to drag order date to columns. I'm going to click on the plus symbol, so we're looking at quarters within years. I'm going to drag region to rows, and then I'm going to drag category next to region. And then what I'm going to do is let's take a look. We'll work with sales. So I'm going to drag sales onto the text mark, and so now we can see what sales are for each category within each region by quarter, by year. So just real quickly, $4,585 is a particular cell. It tells me what sales were for that region, the central region, for that category, furniture, for that quarter, first quarter for the year 2016. All of these that I'm highlighting right now are a pane. So that is giving me sales for a particular year, right? All 2016 and a particular year region. So again, here's another pane, right? Those are all the sales values for the year 2018 and for within the South region. And then everything in this table, if I selected it all, that's the table. So in terms of scope, table, pane, cell, that's what we're talking about. So this is great, and it may be a useful visualization, but we know that we can modify just showing the sales. We could use these quick table calculations. So for example, let's use running totals, since that's we've worked with that. I think we can understand that, and you could see that what's happening right now, and again, if you look at the tooltip, it tells us it's computing this. The direction is across, and for the entire table, so it's going across. So in essence, I'm getting a running total of my furniture category from the first quarter in 2016, that's the first data we have, all the way through the fourth quarter of 2019, the last data we've had. So we could see the increase in each of these. So that may be a useful calculation to look at the growth of a particular category in a particular region, but as we learned with scope and direction, there may be there may be a better way to do that calculation. For example, do we want to, right now, by going across the entire table, we're seeing the growth of a particular category in a region, right, for the 4 years that we have. Instead, do we just want to see our overall sales and see that by quarters? Now, honestly, I don't think that's very useful at all, but we know that we can do it, right? So now we're seeing running totals for Q1 all the way from the central region down to the west region of technology. To me, that's not really giving us any useful information. Maybe I'm just not thinking of the proper question. I think a more useful or certainly better than what we're looking at now, but would be if we looked at pane across. So now when we're looking at pane across, we're looking at the increase of the category within within each quarter. Again, we're doing running totals for a particular region, and then it starts over. So now we're looking at just the 2017 data for the central, 2018, 2019, etc. So we're able to do that analysis just by again changing the compute using. And again, I would urge you to go ahead and play with some of those and see what other additional insights you might be able to get for using a for changing up the compute using. And with that, I am going to create, or let's go ahead and name this, and then we're going to create one last visualization. So this is, I never seem to get this right the first time. Sales by region, by category, and date. Okay, so I'm going to click on New Sheet, and we are going to create one more visualization. So I'm going to drag. We're going to do the same thing we've been doing, starting off dragging order date to columns. I'm expanding it to quarters, and I'm going to drag sales to rows. Right. So we have a line graph of sales within each quarter for each year. We've actually seen something, certainly similar to that. I'm going to take sales, and I am going to drag it right next to my first sales, right? So again, we've repeated it. Now we've got one set of visualizations on top of the other. But now what I'm going to do is change this to a running total, or excuse me, to a quick table calculation. And the quick table calculation I'm going to use is year-over-year growth. And now you can see obviously that the chart on the visualization on the bottom has changed because it's showing year-over-year growth. If I put in the labels, you'll see that what's happening. These are the actual values, and these are the percentages of the year-over-year growth. Now, I want to point out a couple things. When we have multiple measures, as we do here, and there's been some other visualizations where we've had a chart either on top of another one, or one on the left, one on the right. Again, we could flip the columns and rows. That obviously does not, that's not as useful a visualization as this. But whenever we have something where we're having multiple visualization, when you look at the marks card, you'll see that there's something called all, which represents all the visualizations we're looking at. You can see that it has some of sales. This is referring to the top visualization because that's what is being displayed. And then some of sales with the delta sign or the pyramid sign, that's telling us that we're, this is the chart using the quick table calculation. The reason I'm pointing this out is because I think that the line chart showing the year-over-year growth is not the best way to do it. So, and remember, Tableau is saying it thinks that the best way to display this information is by, it's automatically choosing a line chart. But what I want to do is choose a bar chart. I think that's a bit easier on the eyes. I think it makes things a little bit clearer, right? So this is telling me that the difference between Q1 in 2016 and Q1 in 2017 is negative 7.5%. In other words, we had 7.5% less sales in quarter one of 2017 than in quarter one of 2016. Our sales increased by 35%, so a significant increase in Q1 of 2018 to Q1 of 2017. So this is certainly a much more visual, obviously, use of quick table calculations. We can also play around with the scope and direction of this. You could see that that this is well, actually it's not showing up on this tooltip, but if we click on the pill and look at compute using, you can see it's doing it by order date, which makes sense. That's what a year-over-year growth is going to do. But we can modify that. So if we want to see really change this not to year-over-year growth, but for example, if we want to compare quarters, right? So Q2 sales to Q1, Q3 to Q2, Q4 to Q3, etc. We could change that. So we have the same visualization. We're looking at growth, but now we're looking at it, since we're looking at it within a pane and going across, then we've changed this year-over-year growth to quarter-over-quarter growth. I'm going to change it back to order date. I think that makes the most sense. Whoops, that's not. There we go. That's where we are. So that's our last visualization, showing you some examples of how to use quick table calculations and how scope and direction can fix it. So we're going to call this year-over-year